Titans Beast World issue 6, Tom Taylor writing with Ivan Reis, Lucas Meyer, and Eduardo Pansica on the art. And this is an oversized issue. This was a sort of 40-ish page finale. So 6 issues, but this is double size, so it's kind of more like 7 issues, really, when you stop and think about it.
Which is kind of spot on for, I love that when DC puts their special things like this at 7 issues, so it just feels right. Even though this is only 6, but
7 in the spirit.
Yeah. So as a whole, before we talk about this, how do you feel about Beast World as an event?
They're pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think Taylor does a good job of making me root for the characters and what they're trying to achieve, of giving me the heartwarming moments. There's definitely a couple of things that I have questions on, for sure, but overall I feel like, and I think it not only does it sort of give the Titans this big story where they get to be the stars, where they get to be the ones who are solving the big problem, and Superman and the other big A-listers are answering to them and following their instructions, which is nice. And the other big thing it does is that it really does make it feel like it moves Amanda Waller's story forward finally for the first time in decades. Maybe.
A long time. Yeah. Since maybe Checkmate, where she kind of really came to prominence as the chess master type character, to now, to where this leaves her at. She's, I can't not help think of Thunderbolt Ross or J. Jonah Jameson, over at the other company, who is just constantly this person speaking out against the superheroes. But yeah, I just echo what you just said too. It's I really appreciate that it really pushed the Titans to the forefront of DC, right? Because right now there's no Justice League, and it really made the Titans feel like this A-level group, right? That they are more than the sum of their parts, because they kind of have that kind of family vibe to them. And the reason they're able to come together, Taylor pulls on those heartstrings, and makes everything work. So, this is all stuff that we already knew, right? We appreciate the Titans and Nightwing and all those characters, but to put them at, put the spotlight on them for other people that might not know, I think it did its job of spreading that awareness around.
I mean, it's a group of characters that DC for a long time had bungled. Didio, of course, being the one we always blame for that. It may not be the sole blame, but certainly was the one that we pinned it all on. I think, I do have some questions about, there's a sort of twist at the end that leaves me with a couple of questions that maybe, I imagine Taylor will get into it in Titans going forward, because obviously it's setting up story for that book. So, obviously the cliffhanger last issue was that Dr. Hate was actually the demonic side of Raven who had escaped the stone. It mentions here that she escaped the stone when they were in hell for that story, protecting the girl in Nightwing. So I thought that was okay. All right, you actually kind of seeded that a while back. Yeah. That's kind of nice. But yeah, like a lot of this issue is kind of simple in the way that it's like, okay, we're going to lure out all the parasites from all the different animal people, and then kill the parasites, which is great until there's a realization. Until Raven realizes that, the monster people aren't attacking her, and that must be because in some level Gar is still kind of in there. And that's been seeded as well throughout the Titans run, which is this idea that when Gar splits up into all these different creatures, that there's a little bit of him in all of them. Yep. So they're like, wait a minute, if Gar's still in there and we can possibly somehow put him back together, then we can't just be killing the parasites. And at this point, they've already killed a bunch of them. As soon as she says that, you see Starfire holding a dead one in her hand, and she's like, oh no!
Yeah. Well, then I immediately thought of John sizzling them all, right? With the electrical powers, and the stuff they were doing to save their friends.
Yeah, he was killing, dozens of them at a time. Yeah.
If Gar has brain damage after this, it might be because of John, Well, that was one of the things that they kind of do later on in the issue, is that when they get all the parasites together again and they form into Beast Boy, he's kind of like a zombie, because it's not enough of them. Like, they've made the shape of him, but there's not enough of them left until the sort of the final part of it is brought in. But which I guess if you want to talk about that, the idea that because he was a starfish technically, and starfish can regenerate from a single limb,
they're able to use that for him to completely regenerate into Beast Boy.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that little?
Well, being a biology nerd really paid off, because I believe in issue 1, when we saw that piece go off with the Necrostar, I was like, I would not be surprised. And yet here we are. That's exactly what it did. And that's just good storytelling, right? Like, there's no reason for, the average person to know this going in. But the fact that, we saw that piece went off with the Necrostar, got boom tubed into a distant galaxy and frozen, for Taylor to bring that back around and for him to have the characters explain that too. That's just solid storytelling. But I definitely pat myself on the back way too much this week with that. So.
Yeah, I think there's a line about it also rebuilding neurons, which I think was the attempt at explaining, because even with the regeneration part of it physically, there was still the question of, but like four of the 5 limbs of Garrow still are dead. And if Beast Boy was split up into all these different things, then, that would be... But I suppose the argument is that because that wasn't different things, because Garrow was just one giant thing, arguably the rules of the starfish apply to it, where as long as one part of it's left, he can completely come back from it. But anyway, we get our big, Beast Boy's back. Gar's back at the end of the issue. He's fine. We get a heartwarming embrace, only to get the rug pulled out from under us that when Raven was fighting her demonic form throughout the issue and tries to put her back into the gem, the evil side pulled a switcheroo and put the good Raven inside the Soul Stone, and now she's the one in charge, masquerading as Raven.
Yeah, there's a lot of bleak stuff that Taylor does, but nothing like that, for lack of a better term, a post-credit with our Raven talking through the stone, saying, I'm here, I'm in here. And it just felt so hopeless. And I was like, damn you, Taylor, are you puppeteering my emotions? And also the art on that page, the darkness, when you turn the page on the demon version of her with the multiple eyes and stuff, everything's in heavy shadow. It really plays that. So, I have zero doubt that the Titans will save their friend. They fight Trigon, and, that's normal.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question I have here is that this means that it's actually evil Raven who tells them how to rebuild Beast Boy. So the question then is, why did she do that if that's not the good Raven? Is that telling us that even demonic Raven has some kind of attachment to Beast Boy, and that she kind of, maybe it's less of a genuine love from her, more of like a sick obsession because she's the evil side? I don't know. But this is the bad Raven who's done that. This is the bad Raven who like instructs them how to pull all this off. So that does raise some questions about her intentions with that.
So she also gets the helm taken away from the Lords of Chaos. So she's no longer Dr. Hate, which that was a whole sequence that I love. I love that it takes the team, right? So Corey's able to essentially blast the helm off of her, and then Wally runs it to a lava field in a volcano.
Yeah, notably, the helmet tries to seduce Wally into the dark side, as it were. But he's like, I'm too quick. You're already melting in the lava before I can even think about changing sides. And then just says, bye, Chaos Lords, and runs off.
Well, and there's that. And he also makes a Lord of the Ring joke where he's like, I know how to deal with evil, mystical artifacts. Into the lava you go.
I didn't even get funny. That was a Lord of the Rings joke.
Oh, yeah. That's how they have to destroy the One Ring, Pete. Even a self-professed Lord of the Rings, I'm not a hater. I just don't like it. Even I know that one. So... I like all of that, and so
I always fell asleep by the time they threw anything into a volcano.
Brother, you and me both. I just know from pop culture. Those movies are hooey. Anyway, I can rationalize that too. Is the chaos? Yes, she's a demon, right? But she's still a piece of Raven. So yeah, there are a piece of her that want Beast Boy back now.
So you're saying she still cares, like Demon Raven still cares about Beast Boy? Okay.
There's still a piece of her there, and without the Lords of Chaos telling her to go do, seed chaos, she is putting Beast Boy together almost as if, for her more than anything. And I don't know, maybe she needs the Titans to enact whatever the next part of her plan is, so she needs them to believe. It's all one of the, it's kind of like an undercover
I mean,
thing.
I could see it being that she doesn't really even care about him. She's just going to use him to get Trigon out or something like.
That could be.
Yeah.
That could be too. But I still go back to the point that when it was revealed that she's Dr. Hate, the reason that Dr. Hate was able to flip Gar so quickly was that it was Raven talking to him. Like, again, that's not, Taylor never said that. That's just how, it makes sense going back and thinking about, when he becomes Garo from Gar. So, I feel like there is a part of Rey, evil or not, that does care. So she's able to get this and get him back. But again, is it for another reason? Is it, for Trigon to, be released? Is it because she's going to use the Titans for whatever, means is coming? We'll find out in Titans, I guess.
Yeah, no, all very interesting. So our key scenes, Nightwing goes to the president, who they do that thing where they never really show who the president is because they don't want to be specific. But he's about to unmask to try and like gain some trust from the president, and the president is like, no, like.
I know what happens to people who know your identity. No, thank you.
Yeah. But he buys some trust because they help sort of de-animal his wife. The first lady was, turned into whatever. And this like gets a little bit of trust. He's basically just, can you tell all the other world leaders not to try and kill us when we go in to try and save everyone? And sure enough, that seems to be the case. But of course, by the end of the book, Waller has taken the Hall of Justice, which has been dormant ever since the Justice League shut down, because the Titans haven't been using it, and she's turned it into the Hall of Order. It makes a whole big speech about how they're taking something that was never earned back by the people, and she's still, spouting her propaganda. She's still doing her hate speech about superheroes. She's like, they're not heroes, they're an alien, a robot, a freak, or, I can't remember the giant list, but, it's her spouting this idea of the other and trying to further her whole thing. And I think that's been one of the key things in this story that make it feel like an event to me, because it's really advancing, like, her push on the world. So I thought that was a really cool thing to set up for the future stories.
And calling it the Hall of Order too raises some flags for me, because, like, we know she got the Nightmare Stone in the Helm of Chaos, right? But, like, what if you remember when Naboo goes crazy with Dr. Fate, and he's just all about order, and it's only instilling order, and there's no room for balance. I'm almost wondering if that's what's going on with Waller. Is not necessarily saying it's the Lords of Order, but whatever happened to her, on Earth 3 that led to her coming back, it has something to do with there can only be order. I don't know if something's manipulating her, or if she saw something and went for that. But them calling it the Hall of Order here, I think there's something more to that name than just, the whole Law and Order aspect of Amanda Waller.
Like, you may be right. I don't necessarily think so, though. I think this is just about how, like, heroes always talk about justice, they always talk about truth, and all these other good concepts. I think Order's the one that sounds good, but it tends to be used by people who are trying to control everyone, and I think it's just a representation of who Waller is. So I don't think there's any sort of
it could be too.
I don't think there's like any secret plot reason for it, but I memean, I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, but you do make sense, because if they're about truth and justice, those are a lot more positive than order. Order, you can have evil order. I mean, the Empire in Star Wars was all about order and control, and they were the bad guys. So, I mean, that fits with her too. I just, her overtaking that, calling it that, and whatever, it brought up my comic book nerd flags, Yeah.
At one point, Donna gets this fancy like kryptonite / something else suit.
Yeah, some type of specialized metal.
Yeah, so she can take on Kryptonians and Tamaranians. I think the key thing here for me, though, I mean, obviously you get all the cool shots of her in this fancy battle suit, but for me, the big thing here is that Nightwing whips out a folder with saying, hey, this is how you can take me down, and hands it to Donna. And I kind of, it's like he's basically doing the Tower of Babel thing. He's doing the everyone's got a weakness, and we're making sure that if anyone gets infected by these spores, because they could become infected and then they're the biggest threat possible, then everyone needs a way to be taken down. But I think what's interesting so it's very much, he's been taught by Batman. This is very much his education coming into play here. But what I kind of like about him doing it differently is that instead of just him having all the folders, he's given them all to different people. So it's this idea that Donna's got the way to take down Dick. Someone else has the way to take down Donna. Someone else has the way to take down Starfire, so on and so forth.
And Raven, and Cyborg, Beast Boy, yeah. Which I like, because instead of being the Tower of Babel, the Batman files that Ra's al Ghul, the Batman keeps secret, and Ra's al Ghul weaponizes. It's Dick is spreading it around and saying, hey, I trust you to use this if it needs to, and never use it if it doesn't. Which, again, that's what Nightwing's learned from Batman.
Dare I say, it's more of a round robin.
Yeah. Hey,
hold your applause, everyone. Don't call me a hero, right? That's too much.
Oh, definitely.
That's too much.
I would never. At best, you're an anti-hero.
Dear, yeah.
But no, yeah, and just her in that battle suit, it is cool. I like when any familiar character gets an updated type of thing in an event like this, and I don't ever expect to see this type of suit again. But it was cool to see her, in the specialized, it's not quite a mech, but this kind of suit of armor.
Yeah, I don't expect to see it again, but if we do, it'll be in Taylor's Titans run, because he's the one who introduced it.
Yeah.
And he'll have plans for it in some way. Yeah, I think the art is pretty good throughout. For a book with 3 artists, it's shockingly consistent. I'm not saying you can't tell when it changes necessarily, but they're all within a reasonable range of each other, that you're never feeling whiplash from art style changes, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and especially the Ivan Reis and Lucas Meyer art, they're very complimentary.
Yeah. I think Meyer's my favorite of the 3. That's someone who we just kind of discovered through this series, because his couple issues really stuck out. But it's obviously it's a bigger issue. They had all 3 artists kind of like team up to make sure they get all the pages done. I don't think there's a single page that I don't like art wise, and I think that's that's nice to see, and
especially when, like you said, when the art is split amongst so many 3 people, it has the with not that there's no rhyme and reason, but there's no storyline reason for it. It can get really chaotic, but the fact that these 3 artists, because who's the third one is Pensica.
Although is Pensica just the epilogue with Raven?
I believe so, unless that's Lucas Meyer, because that looks very much when Beast Boy comes to, it looks very much like the Lucas Meyer stuff that we did enjoy. So
that's not the epilogue yet. The epilogue's the
the epilogue's the Raven stuff.
Yeah,
I got you. I think you're right, because looking at that with all the dark shadows, it is very different.
Yeah, it looks different. So
if this is just Reese and Meyer, it's still fantastic. Yeah. It's just balanced.
Yeah, there's good moments throughout. You got John catching a rocket at one point, Sergeant Steele yelling at him, all the various pieces with the Peacemaker at the start, all the stuff with the spores. In fact, this is not an art thing, but one of my favorite lines in the book is it's actually Detective Chimp who's like got the plan to get all the spores, and he's like given the orders to like all these like A-list superheroes. There's a whole lineup of them across the top of the page, and he's given the orders, and there's just a little narration box saying it was the most power ever wielded by one chimpanzee. And I thought that was a very funny line. Yeah,
no, it's good. More Detective Chimp. I love it. I miss that Justice League Dark book where he was running around with that sword. What was it from the Night Guard, whatever that guy's name was, who ran the Oblivion Bar. A lot more Detective Chimp there. Was a lot of fun. So maybe Taylor will start working him in now into some Titan stuff.
Maybe, yeah. So no, I'm pretty happy overall with this event. It's definitely one of the events that I've enjoyed the most in a long time, because I feel like all the ones we had in the last few years, whether it was Williamson's like Infinite Frontier stuff or whatever that Justice Incarnate, is that what that's called?
It was all part of one thing. It was Williamson telling a story over.
But not just that though. I'm even thinking of like the last like metal, heavy metal or dark metal. Like some of that stuff. Like there was good stuff in it. Like there was always stuff that I enjoyed in the books, but I think I always felt that sort of event kind of like, this ended like an event kind of did.
I think where Taylor succeeds, where Williamson and some of these other ones didn't, is there really is an emotional core of saving Gar through this.
Yeah, I give a shit about the characters because of the story specifically, and I think that's something that some of the other events just never quite capture.
Yeah, I know, because we were shocked when Waller sends in Chunk and sacrifices Chunk to kill Gar, and then it kind of felt hopeless. And, us knowing that comics it'll probably end up well for them. It still didn't take away from any of it. And that's because Taylor had us caring for these characters. And then especially when they turn into beasts too, it's like, there is a cure. This is not some zombie virus, or techno-organic thing that's turning people into robots. There was a way out. We saw it throughout. You draw up the spore by being the more powerful thing.
Yeah, there was a simple, understandable rule. It wasn't just random. It was like, no. If Batman's infected with a spore, but then Superman shows up in front of him, the spore will try and jump because he's got a more powerful body.
Right.
Simple stuff.
So I think there's a lot of stuff there that because that's kind of a simple overarching story, it allows for those character moments to really sink in. So, and this is what Taylor's done in Deceased and Dark Knights of Steel and all these other, non-continuity stories. So it's good to see him bring it over here and kind of leave, not that the DC universe is in a better place after this, but it's definitely, in a world without the Justice League, the DC universe feels okay.
It feels more defined.
Yeah.
Feels defined. So I'm curious to see, I know they've got a summer event that they're teasing, they've not revealed yet. I wonder if Waller's whole shtick will play into that. Maybe not. We'll find out. But definitely curious. And I think, the Dr. Hate stuff leading into it was definitely the stuff that I was the most skeptical of. And it was probably still the weakest part of it overall because, whenever Dr. Hate showed up before the unmasking, it was kind of like, they feel kind of ancillary to everything else that's going on. Obviously, the reveal that it's Dark Raven was a bit more interesting. I think that stuff, though, I kind of like more what it's set up for going forward in Titans than I did itself in the story. I enjoyed all the Spore stuff. I enjoyed the caring about Beast Boy, his big tragic saving the world play that ended in his death. Everyone coming together to save him. All that stuff was great. And I think the Raven stuff is fine. But I'm excited for it more going forward because okay, now we have this darker side of Raven, and I'm looking forward to Beast Boy maybe noticing that there's something not quite right, for him to be the one who says, hey, that's not my Raven, there's something there. Yeah.
Or what if because of this has changed him and he's just like, yeah, no, she understands it now. And and not necessarily he's on the dark side, but he's on a darker sense of...
I'm about to reference something I have never seen. But at one point he's going to go, that's not so Raven.
Very, very, very nice.
I've heard of a show called That's So Raven. Yes, I've never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, she's a teenager that gets psychic visions, and then hilarity ensues.
Really? So, I had no idea there was a superpower. I just thought it was a sitcom.
Yeah. Anyways, to add on what you were saying about Dr. Hate versus Dark Raven is, once the reveal happens, I care way more about Dark Raven than I do Dr. Hate. Yeah. And I know part of it is you have to keep the mystery of who this is because of the turn in the fifth issue or whatever. But once it's revealed to be Dark Raven, that matters to me more because of stuff we're talking about, story and character going forward. Than because
I think it's also because Dr. Hate just felt like a typical comic book thing where the whole point is that we're waiting for the reveal, and it feels a bit gimmicky as a result. And I don't know if this was Taylor's idea or if this was wider DC stuff. I mean, I don't know, because it's just feeding into Titans, so it probably was just his idea. The only reason I'm questioning that is because it was set up in those final pages of that last thing.
And I'm wondering if he's just like, look, I'm going to use a Dark Raven. I'm going to have to keep it under secret. So yeah, let's, I feel like him and Williamson both are under the understanding about Waller. So they're like, well, how can we work on this that it can forward both of her goals? And by creating Dr. Hate out of Night Terrors and then into Titans, where now I feel like that part's over. And I feel like we still have, from being the only person still reading Green Arrow on the show, Waller's still very much a character in that, and that's Williamson. So I have the feeling that we'll get some more of this Waller stuff there, leading up to whatever the summertime event is, which I'm pretty sure is going to be Williamson at this point.
I also just wonder if it's just a kind of you're doing an event. You have to have some gimmicky mystery to draw people in, and that's what Dr. Hate was designed to be. So even if it was Taylor's idea, it might be kind of like a necessary evil of just the format that he's writing for. Which is not to just blindly defend him necessarily. It could just be his mediocre idea, because he has them sometimes. That's normal. But
yeah, Pirate Society, right?
Yeah, sure. Pirate Society is a good example.
You know what I mean? But again, and this is coming from a former Williamson guy, is I feel like when Williamson is throwing out all these ideas, he forgets about the character aspect of it. Whereas with Taylor, he's very character driven. So yes, Dr. Hate might have been like this cool design, and we're going to give him the Helm of Chaos and the Nightmare Stone. But at the end of the day, the motivations are whatever Dark Raven is, not necessarily, whatever they were going to do with the Nightmare Stone.
I am sure there's going to be good drama in Titans because of this now, and I'm excited about that. So, but everything else in the event I really liked. It was a good time. I think double shipping it. Or in this month's case, kind of triple shipping it with the week 5, just to get it over in about 2.5 months, I think was a smart choice. It meant that even though Titans and Nightwing tied into it a little bit, it was only an issue or 2 for each book, and it just it was a breeze, and there was a fun tiny thing over Christmas and January basically to have this event to talk about. So yeah, what are you giving Titans Beast World issue 6?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go as high as the 9. I think there's a lot of really smart things it does, but at the same time, it is kind of an event final issue, so it's it has the components that normally make up those issues of like doing a lot of action, and it looks quite good, the action. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. That said, though, I think I'll agree with the 8.5. I think I'll agree with that.